Well, to the Ontario Legislature at Queen's Park in Toronto now. This is where Premier Doug Ford had to explain a controversial comment he made yesterday. A comment about Bill 5, which is Ontario's recently approved law that fast-tracks developments considered key to shoring up the province's economy. Now, there have been serious concerns raised about that law, among them concerns about Indigenous consultation. But in trying to address those criticisms yesterday, take a listen to what we heard from Premier Doug Ford.
There's going to be a point that you can't just keep coming hat in hand all the time to the government. You've got to be able to take care of yourselves. And when you literally have gold mines, nickel mines, every type of critical mineral that the world wants, and you're saying, no, I don't want to touch that. By the way, give me money. Not going to happen.
Now, that comment elicited several responses, including this one from Saul Mamakwa, Ontario's only Indigenous member of provincial parliament. The NDP member saying the Premier's remarks today were deeply offensive and racist. This Premier has made it clear that he won't bring people together, uphold the honour of the Crown, and obtain free, prior, and informed consent. Bill 5 was an assault on treaty rights. Now, this all happened just before Premier Ford had a meeting with Indigenous chiefs today. After that meeting, he did apologize for the comment made yesterday. And to walk us through the story, we're happy to have Rob Benzie on the program this evening. Rob is the Queen's Park Bureau Chief for the Toronto Star. Rob, hello.
Good evening, Michael.
So listen, we're going to play a bit of the Doug Ford's apology a little bit into this interview, but I want to begin first and foremost because, you know, here you have this meeting with Indigenous leadership in Ontario the day after a comment like that is made. So what kind of reception did Premier Ford get as he sat down with the chiefs?
Well, I mean, obviously, it overshadowed all of the intent of this meeting, Michael. This was about the Premier was meeting with the chiefs to talk about Bill 5. There are deep concerns in Indigenous communities and indeed other communities around Ontario about this legislation, which is the provincial version of Bill C5, very similar type of law that is designed to fast-track mining projects and other infrastructure. And there are worries that this is going to lead to problems in these communities. So he was having to explain himself from yesterday before he could actually explain his hopes for Bill 5.
Mm-hmm. Now, as I said, he as you say, he explained himself, and he also did apologize. Let's play a bit of what we did hear from Premier Ford after that meeting with Indigenous chiefs. Take a listen.
I just want to say I sincerely apologize for my words, not only if it hurt all the chiefs in that room, but all First Nations. Because we know that if we work together, and I said during the campaign, nothing moves without First Nations consultation, respecting duty to consult, and make sure that we work together.
So that's a bit of the apology. I'll also say that, you know, the Premier defended himself by saying, you know, people know he gets passionate about things and, you know, essentially shoots from the hip. But I wonder, with that apology now made, Rob, does this affect the working relationship this government, the province of Ontario, will have with Indigenous communities as they try to pursue projects like the Ring of Fire?
It doesn't help, Michael, because I mean, the chiefs that he met with today from the 39 First Nations, they oppose Bill 5. So he's having a meeting with them to talk about why Bill 5 could be good for their communities, and he's having to apologize for an inelegant remark that he made yesterday. And I honestly don't believe he was trying to be hurtful. I think, though, he said to us today that he gets sometimes a bit excited and trips over his words, and that is true. He has had to walk back things that he said before, but I think it's such a sensitive subject, and treaty rights and the duty to consult is something that's very, very important in this country, and I think it doesn't help his sales job of Bill 5. Even though Bill 5 has passed, the Tory government here at Queen's Park is fixing it in regulation because there are some concerns about these quote unquote special economic zones that normal laws don't apply, and that First Nations feel override their longstanding treaty rights. So it was a messy situation earlier today, and much of it was the Premier's own making.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is, you know, as you say, Ontario has adopted Bill 5 here in Ottawa, as we just heard from our political strategist. The federal government is trying to get its own Bill C5 passed by the end of this week, end of day tomorrow. And really, when you look at it, the concerns are still the same. Indigenous consultation, concerns about environmental regulations being ignored in order to get these type of economic projects pushed forward. You talk about the Ontario government making some regulatory changes. Are they concerned about legal challenges? Because ironically, if they're trying to speed up projects, if there is a legal challenge, it could, at the end of the day, delay these projects.
Exactly. And Michael, that's what First Nations have been warning the Premier. They've been saying, look, because this bill has been so poorly crafted, it's actually could slow things down. Now, their whole raison d'etre on this one is that they want to get things down to 2 years for an approval. Right now, it can take 15 years, they say, to get a mining project approved, because there's lots of duplicate environmental assessments, federal and provincial, and then local governments get involved. First Nations certainly get involved. So I understand the thinking behind streamlining things. The problem is the execution has not been great. And are there going to be legal challenges? Almost certainly.
Yeah, and I guess the other part of it, though, too, Rob, is what is the government saying about these legal challenges and really controversy, like comments made yesterday by the Premier? Do they actually dissuade investment? Because at the end of the day, as much as you want to approve anything, without actual enterprise, private industry getting involved, it's not going to move forward. Are they concerned about dissuading investment by not clearing this all up?
Well, I mean, this is the problem, right? This is now another cloud hanging over this. Now, the Ring of Fire has been talked about for almost 20 years. This, this almost mythic, massive mineral deposits in northwestern Ontario, not far from Kenora. The problem is that it's hard to get to, and Premier Ford has made building a road to the Ring of Fire kind of his big infrastructure project for the last 7 years almost, and it's still not done.
Well, as you say, it's been long in process, the Ring and Fire. We continue to watch it. Rob, really appreciate it's been quite the story at Queen's Park. Thank you for the time this evening.
Always a pleasure, Michael.
Okay, take care.